Thank you. Thank you. Um, His Excellency, Ambassador of Trinidad, His Excellency, Her Excellency, Ambassador of Costa Rica, representative of embassy from the Caribbean and Central America, um, Dr. Joseph Cromfoot, I think I pronounced it, Director of Research in Public Sector Information and Management at the Institute of Public Governance in Q11 University, and Dr. Gregorio Rosario, Professor of Cartography and Photogrammetry at the School of Surveying at the Universidad Autónoma de Santo Domingo, distinguished special invitees, to all our friends that are connected online. I understand we have quite a few that are already connected online. Well, thank you, and thank you for your presence on this Friday afternoon, cold Friday afternoon in Brussels. So what else is new? But on behalf of the Embassy of the Dominican Republic, I just want to say that we highly appreciate your presence here, and to those of our friends that are also connected online for this act in which we will present a book, Spatial Data Infrastructure for Facilitating Emergency Mapping Team Operation in the Caribbean, which his author, Dr. Gregorio Rosario from the Dominican Republic. It's a pleasure and an honor to have you here and to share with you this. Every book is it's a child, just basically, so that to present this child, this product of the research and investigation as part of his doctoral thesis of Dr. Rosario Michel. The book analyzes and exposes alternatives for regional cooperation between the agencies of various Caribbean countries and territories, with a view to a greater dissemination and management of data that could allow effective decision-making on disaster risk management issues. So in this sense, we are convinced that this book is a significant contribution to our region. If we take into consideration that the Caribbean region, it's worldwide recognized as one of the most vulnerable region when it comes to climate change. And we deal with these problems in our region. When I mean Caribbean, I'm not only talking about the islands of the Caribbean, but also the whole arch of Central America, of our brothers and sisters of Central America that also are suffering for the consequences of climate change, global warming, the erosion of the beaches, the Sargassus problem, and also, as you are aware, every 6 months the Caribbean is exposed to the hurricane season, and from June to November, basically, we all become more religious, just praying that we don't get hit. Welcome, the Honorable Ambassador of Bahamas, our dear friend. Thank you for being here. So, the Caribbean, we all suffering and from these things. And every year, we not only have more tropical storms, hurricanes, but also the strength of these atmospherical phenomena are even greater. In this regard, I think that these books, as I said, that seeks to foster and enhance the cooperation among different agencies in the region, I think is a great contribution for the advance of the cooperation and the exchange of information in our region that will lead to share information that will allow in in emergency circumstances, our governments and agencies to take decisions based in the best possible data. So I thank Dr. Gregorio Rosario for this. I mean, I think that this book has been published with the sponsored by the KU Leuven, the University of Louvain. And I think that you all will find in this book a lot of interesting information that you could, in the case of the distinguished representatives from different countries, you can share with back with your governments. But even for whoever is interested in knowing more about this, and I think that it's a great reference for this. So I thank you, Dr. Rosario, for being so kind and accepting our invitation to come here and to share your knowledge with us this afternoon. So I will not drag anymore. So thank you very much for being here.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Now it is my honor to introduce you Dr. Joan Crawford. Mr. Crawford is currently Professor and Director of Research in the Public Sector Information Management at Institute of Public Government at the KU Leuven University. Dr. Crawford, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I prepared to speak in Spanish and in English, so I will do it very quickly in Spanish and then also very quickly in English. Estimado embajador, señores y señoras, me complace ser invitado por la Embajada de República Dominicana con motivo del lanzamiento del libro de Dr. Gregorio Rosario Michel. Este libro es el resultado directo de su investigación doctoral realizada por la Universidad Católica de Louvain, Bélgica. El título del libro es Una perspectiva de infraestructura de datos especiales para facilitar la operación de equipos cartográficos de emergencia en pequeños estados independientes en desarrollo. Se trata de un tema de investigación pertinente para los pequeños estados insulares de desarrollo, en particular de los del Caribe. Estas islas son propensas y vulnerables a peligros naturales como huracanes, terremotos y inundaciones. Además, estas naciones suelen tener recursos y capacidades limitadas para hacer frente a estos problemas de manera sostenible. El viaje de investigación ya comenzó en 2015, cuando recibí una invitación de Gregorio para realizar una investigación sobre cartografía de emergencia basada en infraestructura de datos especiales. La investigación se centró en los requisitos de los usuarios para las operaciones de equipos de gestión de emergencia. Obtener información sobre los factores críticos para mejorar el rendimiento de la infraestructura de datos especiales con el fin de facilitar las tareas de gestión de riesgo de catástrofes. Obtener información sobre la gobernanza de infraestructura de datos especiales para facilitar las operaciones del equipo de cartografía de emergencia. El viaje de investigación terminó con una tesis en la Universidad Católica de Louvain en septiembre de 2023. El resultado de investigación fue 1. Identificación de las necesidades de los usuarios para la gestión del riesgo catástrofes. 2. Identificación de los factores críticos para mejorar el rendimiento de la infraestructura de datos especiales con el fin de facilitar las operaciones de los equipos de gestión de emergencia. Y número 3, una estrategia de gobernanza para la implementación de infraestructuras de datos especiales pertinentes. Al final, me gustaría decir que para mí me ha sido un placer, un verdadero placer para trabajar junto con Gregorio. Quisiera terminar mi breve intervención dando las gracias al Ministerio de Enseñanza Superior, Ciencia y Tecnología, así como al Servicio Geológico Nacional. I hope that my Spanish was understandable for the people in, but I would like now to do it in English, which is a little bit more common to it, more used to it, but I hope that you appreciate it. So, dear Ambassador, dear colleagues, dear ladies and gentlemen, I'm delighted to be invited here at the Embassy of the Dominican Republic regarding the book launching of Dr. Gregorio Rosario Michel. This book is a direct result of his PhD research executed at quite a beautiful university called KU Leuven, or the Catholic University Leuven, here in Belgium. The title of the book is called A Spatial Data Infrastructure Perspective to Facilitate Emergency Mapping Team Operation in Small Island-Dependent States. I think this is a relevant topic for small island states, particularly the ones for the Caribbean. As already been said by the ambassador, these islands are prone and vulnerable to climate change, but also natural hazards such as hurricanes, earthquakes, and flooding. Moreover, these nations have frequently limited resources and capacities to deal with these huge issues in sustainable manner. The research journey already started in 2015 when I received a request from Gregorio to do research about emergency mapping based on somehow called topic spatial data infrastructures. In my opinion, the research topic was relevant and linked to my expertise. I decided, yes, I take him on board, and I support Gregorio to do the research and to start the adventure of the PhD. The research focused on user requirements for emergency management operations, gaining insights in critical factors for enhancing the performance of spatial data infrastructure to facilitate disaster risk management task, gaining insights about the governance of the spatial data infrastructure to facilitate emergency mapping team operation. The research journey of Gregorio ended with a PhD defense at the Catholic University Leuven last September 2023. The research resulted into an identification of user requirements for disaster risk management. 2, the identification of critical factors for enhancing the performance of spatial data infrastructures in order to facilitate emergency mapping team operations. And last but not least, a governance strategy for implementing relevant spatial data infrastructures. I also would like to mention that it was a real joy for me to work with Gregorio. I also would like to end my brief short speech to thank the Ministry of Higher Education, Science and Technology of the Republic of Dominica, and as well as the National Geological Survey. With this, I would like to end my presentation. Please, John.
And now it's my pleasure to introduce our final speaker, Dr. Gregorio Rosario, who is the person that we are all here for. He will now present his book, so let's welcome him with a big applause.
Wow, nothing to say after Mr. Ambassador and Professor Kronfurt, but we are going to share a small presentation to make it even clearer, because it's very important that the message is delivered in a clear and easy to understand manner due to the relevance of the topic. We are talking about disaster, which make us suffer every year in a little magnitude or very strong magnitude. For example, Irma and Maria, those hurricanes vanished many islands in the Caribbean, and we have to try to help each other. And here in this book, we are going to try to create the foundational framework so each island is prepared to help the others in terms of making maps and sharing information to fight back disasters. This is very important. ¿Me veo? La luz está bien, con la luz está bien, sí. Sí. Vamos a verla. Sí, sí, mejor verla. Sí. El puntero está acá. Muy bien. Entonces, a presentar a este. Presentar este. Mira, a ver. No, pues tú le das. Bueno, un poquito en español. Para agradecer la presencia de los representantes de los hermanos países de Panamá, de la República de Cuba, de la República de Argentina, de los hermanos de Trinidad y Tobago, también, dígame. Granada, my friend from Granada, and Bahamas. So we all know what we are talking about when we talk about disasters. We are experts in disaster. We are experts to fight back disaster and come back even better because we are always happy. Even our house is destroyed, right? Jesse. Okay, muy bien. Thanks to all people online and my friend from Leuven, from the etc. He can change many university, also 20 university, all expert here. We are very pleased. And also all professor in Latin America and my colleague in Panama, Puerto Rico, and so on. Hello to all of you. Because we are in interconnected work. So, para acá, apunto, okay. So this is the book. We are talking about spatial data infrastructure to facilitate emergency mapping operations in the Caribbean small island developing states. Thanks again, and first to the Mr. Ambassador Ivan Ogando Lora for his courtesy to invite me to this presentation. So we will talk about Caribbean small island developing state. We are talking about countries which share many challenges, but solutions. So we also can have a common solution to these problems when we talk about limited resources, the human capacity, skill, special researchers and technicians to create the information that the governments need to take good decisions at the right time. Okay. So this presents a very big challenge for the Sustainable Development Goals when we, for example, consider the Sendai framework or the Samoa framework that some of these countries are part of or belongs to this or have signed the agreement of Samoa. So we all agree that we need to know more about our hazard, our risk. All those information, all those risks are based on the location, on the territory. So we need spatial information about those risks, all the elements that are exposed, so we can derive the disaster risk. So with that information, we will help to enhance the governance of disaster risk reductions, also to include all the stakeholders involved in the disaster risk management life cycle. So we are talking about information that will help us improve our governance based on the participation of all stakeholders. How make this happen? How make this happen? If we need to be prepared for next year, this year, to how we are going to create information, process the information, analyze, and share the information to all stakeholders. So every key stakeholder have the same picture at the same time. So we'll need disaster require huge amounts of information from different stakeholders, different government organizations. New information will be required. or will be new or outdated information will be required. So the user requirement for all those stakeholders change very fast along the disaster management life cycle. So in order to respond to this environment, to this scenario, the emergency mapping team serves as a collaborative effort to make people together who can help the government to create or to overcome these demands of information. Mainly university, private companies, NGOs, academia belongs to this emergency mapping team. Okay, so the question is, how can we make the spatial data infrastructure to facilitate the performance of those teams who will going to help us to deliver information to take the right decision at the right moment? When we talk about spatial data infrastructure, we are talking about technology, people, standard, policies, data, of course, that will have the facilitation, will help us to coordinate and facilitate the change of the right information to all stakeholders involved in the spatial data community. In this case, the community that is responsible to respond to disasters. How that information can be delivered to those people who is responsible. Here, our books have these three main key information that it will be good, very good for your government agencies. How can we understand better what is the user requirements of all those stakeholders, what they really need at the moment when in terms of information, at the moment when disasters happens? What critical factors have to be considered to improve the spatial data infrastructure? But when we talk about spatial data infrastructure, we are talking about how key stakeholders share this information. At the same time, information which is trust come from people who already have some agreement. So we are talking about trust and fiable information to take decisions. And then another most important information that we'll get in this book is about the multi-actor, multi-criteria analysis for how to govern this spatial data infrastructure to facilitate the operation of those people who will create information for us, who will support the government to get the right information at the right time. Because when disasters happens, the first one who is overcome, because too busy, is the government, because they're only responsible. But how about the private company who is there? How about the NGO who is already there in the field? They also can support, or the small enterprise. They already have capability that can be take advantage of those capability to help the governments or even their own community. So that's what we are talking about, how to make this happen. So the first 3 chapters of the book, we dedicated the effort to analyze user requirement at different levels, at the national level, at the regional level, and also in the whole scope of the disaster risk management life cycle. Then we focus on the 5th chapter, we talk about the identification of critical factors, what need to be improved or in the spatial data infrastructure environment to make this happen. Because the SDI, the spatial data infrastructure, is created, is implemented usually in a very big scope, not thinking about disaster. Maybe the mining, the urban planning, for economic development, many different reasons. But here we propose how to make this generic infrastructure a thematic one for the purpose of disaster risk management. And the last chapter, thematic chapter, is how different stakeholders, the academia, the private company, the emergency mapping thing itself, and the government, how they think about this problem, and how can we try to find an optimal scenario to respond to all those stakeholders, key stakeholders. So here, in this book, you will find detailed information about user requirements for emergency mapping team operations at the national level first. So here we see that standardization, establishing a disaster-oriented spatial data infrastructure, partnership, public-private partnership are also key to connect potential stakeholders who has a lot of resources there to help us to generate information and share the information, the right information from the field. Also, the effective communication among all stakeholders, capacity building programs. This is one of the most important user requirements in the Caribbean. All experts, all technicians who I visit and interview and survey, they all agree with they need more capacity building programs, trainings, workshop, research funding. So here at the Caribbean level, we developed a 3 case study. We visit Dominican Republic, San Martin, and San Lucia. We were already talking about this with some of you. So here at the Caribbean level, we found these 5 common user requirements, and most important user requirements. We talk about institutional arrangement to enable the development of standards. Most of the information there is good, but they're not standardized. It means that one agency have the information in one format, another have a private software, another have open data software. So many information is there, but it's not, it's heterogeneous. It's heterogeneous efforts. So a standard has to be there to put there all the technology, data, policy in order. Disaster, again, the disasters-oriented SDI, linking stakeholder at community level. So this is very important to involve the community, to teach the community how they can create data, the importance of trust, importance of a standard, of quality information. So the information that they bring to the government is trust. So the information has to can be exploited in a good way. I mean, have to be decision can be taken based on that information. Partnership arrangement at the moment, most of those things is based on government officials. So not too much participation of the private sector, NGOs, academia, research institute. So in order to open this infrastructure, you need some arrangement so the quality of the information and efforts are unified. Capacity building programs is also, as I mentioned before, a key user requirement for those things. Okay. Here in this chapter, you will find user requirements in a very more big scope for disaster risk management, not just for the ENT operation, but for the disaster risk management life cycle. And we found that some of the requirements are common, even for if you work for the ENT operation, it will be also useful for disaster risk management life cycle. So policy for sharing geospatial information and services. So most of our organization, they claim that they cannot share the information. So this is a very big constraint. At the moment, we have to deal with disaster because most of the information is like in a silo in one organization. They cannot move that information to another. Or like in Haiti, when the earthquake happened in Haiti, the Institut Geographique National was destroyed. So all technician, all information was disappeared. So who, if the information is just there, how can the government respond without information? So most of the information had to be built again from zero because all people die, unfortunately. So if the standard is there, even I am sick, all other people or technical documentation, all people can support because everything is written. So here, implementation of national SDI, technical standards, as I just mentioned, for real-time data collection and dissemination, simplified procedures for gathering and accessing metadata. This is important because when we talk about disaster, time, people, resources are limited. So we have to have some simplified procedures for collecting the data, but guaranteeing the quality. Quality is important. Developing mobile application for data and alert visualization, capacity building programs. No matter which level you are talking about, capacity building programs is there, policy standards. That's what we need to, in terms of information management, to be more prepared for disaster risk management. Again, enabling closer community participations using social network. Information is there, young people is there. All those tools can be used to collect data in a good way to respond to disaster. Okay. No? No, one back. Okay. So here is this very, very, very important. We analyze how to improve, which critical factor are the most important and the most feasible, because some factors are very important but not feasible. Because, for example, changing a law is very important, but it takes a very long time to get it, right, to get it done. So these factors, these 23 critical factors that we found are the ones that are important, but also feasible for implementing. So here we found that the most important part, the factor to enhance the sharing of information and services is not data, it's not technology. It's about people and policy. People and policy are the ones that really matters. Capacity building programs, creating a culture of trust and cooperation, effective cooperation among stakeholders, legislation on public information, access to public information, capacity building, user involvement, how to link community get more participation in the community in terms of information technology to get information to share with the government. And also this digital platform to connect emergency service. Again, this is very easy to say, but getting in organization, working together, sharing information in real-time manner with really good quality that all people need is a really big challenge. So it's a good first step to solve the problem, to identify what we really need to do. Okay. Here in this final thematic chapter, we analyze 3 scenarios to understand how can we enhance the performance of SDI to facilitate emergency mapping team operation. So we consult people from the government, the private sector, and academia, and ENT, emergency mapping team. With 3 scenarios, going concern is the current scenario. There is no official SDI legislation in place, led by government organization, as I mentioned before, limit participation of all other non-traditional stakeholders. Increasing hierarchy scenario, it means increasing the legal basis of SDI, more pushing the organization to share the information, government as rule makers, limit participation of non-traditional stakeholders. Increasing network scenarios, more working in a network of organizations, more participation of all non-traditional stakeholders, and government as a rule maker and facilitator of people working in a network. The results here, we see of this analysis, we have 4 perspectives of each stakeholders and an integrated perspective with all of them. For example, here from the government view, we see that have a preference for increasing network scenario. The government is willing to work in a network with other organizations based on effective communication, public-private partnership, and up-to-date data, updated data. This is the most important for the government in order to implement this increasing network scenarios. The private sector is clear that is willing to work in increased network scenario based on updated data, effective communication, more user involvement, public-private partnership, and availability of training. So all stakeholders agree that the private sector has to be involved in this important task. here the academia also go for the increasing network scenario based on data funding and data standardization. So here, all stakeholders agree with increasing network scenario except emergency mapping team. You see, they don't care which way you will go. They agree with both scenarios, the increasing network and also hierarchy. But what they really want is to communicate with all others, because they are the one who is going to receive the information from the field and create the maps so they can share to the official organization that will really take the decisions. Public-private partnership and institutional arrangements. When we have the integrated view here, you see, as I mentioned before, that all stakeholders agree with the increasing network scenario except the emergency mapping team. So based on the user requirements, the critical factor, and this analysis of the scenario of how make this infrastructure work to facilitate the emergency mapping team operations, then we have the chapter 7, some main conclusion that we'll see in detail in the books. User requirement for emergency mapping team operation do not stand in contrast with user requirement for disaster risk management. They are part of them. As I mentioned before, and we saw in the chapter, most of the requirements are commons. SDI cannot be enhanced just with data and technology alone. Social, organizational, policy, and other non-traditional factors like effective communication have to be taken into consideration. Community support, especially at the local level, is really important to enhance the emergency mapping operations in the Caribbean. Increasing SDI potential from the network governance should be addressed in a network way. We need to join efforts. The government alone cannot solve the problem, especially with this increase of climate change effects, the humanization of our people. Most people come from cities, so disasters have moved from the countryside to the city centers, so we have to be prepared. SDI can enhance ENT operation in multiple directions. For example, interagency network, real-time coordination, communication, knowledge transfer, and more user involvement. For the future, we are going to work on the private sector contribution in the disaster risk management, citizens and community user requirements for ENT operations, the development of a readiness model for ENT operation in the Caribbean, and key driver for the transition of SDI to our knowledge infrastructure. Again, we are going to send K11, Professor Yup, all of you, all of there on the web for attending this presentation. The Minister of Higher Education, Science and Technology, our government, the National Geological Survey of the Dominican Republic, who is a key actor in the disaster risk management scenario, our honorable ambassador, and all of you, your professional team here in the embassy. Thank you so much for your attention. Preguntas, questions? Yeah, please. Any questions? Okay.
Like, how can we share this information between countries so we can really, all the countries, so we can all have like this information? Because the importance is, I think, that all the Caribbean countries can benefit from this.
You mean the book?
No, not the book, like,
No.
how can, like, all the countries, how we can work together or learn from the experience of each country, like how we can communicate between, like as an advice. We know how, but as an advice.
Okay. There are some regional organization like CIDIMA and also I don't remember others, and local organization, they work together, they celebrate congress, workshop, they're already working together. But the point is at that level, when we talk at that level, regional level, then when you go back to their country, there they don't find the necessary support to move to the regional level. They already have in the whole country, their own country. So this user requirement first has to be solved in order to cooperate at the regional level. I think so. So the shared information is already there. The point is that information enough to fight back the huge disaster that we are dealing with days? That's the point. If the effort that each government is doing by itself and among the group, if they are enough to fight the disasters, that's the point. They're already sharing information. The point is that the efforts, I think, is not enough. Wow. Our friend from Cuba, Bahamas first. Sorry, Ambassador, Mr. Ambassador.
Thank you for your very informative presentation.
Thank you.
I don't have a pregunta.
Oh.
I have a comment.
Perfect. Better.
And I was happy to hear that persons are moving away from this, not reliance so much, but technology being the
Focus.
panacea, the focus,
Yeah.
the answer to everything, and then leaving the knowledge home. It's like when you change a system, persons come to work the next day thinking that they can do nothing because the system is supposed to do it for them. So I'm happy to hear that it takes the same old
Approach.
communication, the old processes to make this work, and that communication and information sharing are going to be more important or as important as the technology and the growth of technology in this area.
Thank you so much, Ms. Ambassador. Very nice comments.
Yeah,
Perfect.
also, I think that the ambassador, I was thinking in the same line, no? Because for us, for Cuban, we had to develop a strong system to fight against the disaster without technology.
Right.
Because we face so many problems that we can think only in the technology because we don't have access to that. That is why for us, the development of the organization, the policies, the relation with the community are so important. So that's why when I thinking in what to do more in our countryside, I think that we have to explore more that vision and share more among each others the relevance of the organization and the community work in order to a well preparedness regarding to disasters in our region. So I once again thank you, Professor, for your presentation. I think it's very interesting. I'm willing to at least keep one book.
Yeah, of course.
Colleagues in Havana, and once again, thank you for the ambassador also for hosting this very interesting activity.
On behalf of our team, we want you to say thanks to Ms. Professor Tatiana Delgado, who's also part of our team. And it's an honorable professor, very, very respected professor who helped us to develop part of our research. Thank you.
University of Havana or from the?
From
University Climate Accident.
From that is the center of the environmental disaster.
Yes.
I think
but she's also from the Informatic Union.
yes,
Informatic
yes,
Union.
for
She's
the-
also part of the
yeah,
Informatic Union, of Cuban Informatic Union.
Yes, I know.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
I will contact her.
Okay. So any other questions?
No, I think, thank you for the previous comment, but I think that certainly in the same line, one of the things that I would like to highlight is that we live in a world where we have more information that we can actually absorb.
Handle.
I mean, with a simple telephone in our hand, I mean, we can have more information than anybody could have 20 years ago, 25 years ago. Maybe we all were born there. So basically, it's, I think that one of the issues that Dr. Rosario highlighted is that it's the importance of the human capital in order to know what to do with that information, in order to make it, put it in a format that could be accessible, that also that it's information that could be trustworthy, because a great part of the information that we would see just junk information or disinformation, which is worse. And then, so in that sense, I think that I just would like to highlight the importance, as he mentioned, of the human factor in order to develop systems to organize cooperation scheme that rely in that human factor. And I think that it's a very significant thing to be highlighted, because many of our, we have a lot of information, we have a lot of equipment in our countries, whatever, but sometimes are misused or underused and not used in the right time and in the right ways. So I think that this is kind of take us in the right direction. So thank you very much, Mr.
Based on, okay,
There was a one faux pas on my part, because I forgot to actually introduce Dr. Rosario, basically a little bit of her CV. So I'll just
okay.
will take the opportunity. But Dr. Rosario studied electromechanical engineering and has a master's degree in telecommunication from the Autonomous University of Santo Domingo, my alma mater, in the Dominican Republic. In 2009, he obtained a second master's degree in cartographic geotechnologies from the University of Salamanca, Spain. In 2013, he completed a third master,
Wow.
a master's degree in geomatics from the National Shen Kung University in Taiwan. And then, most recently, Dr. Rosario received his PhD from the Catholic University of Leuven, from the Public Governance Institute in 2003. So basically, his main main research interests are small development states, emergency mapping operation, user requirement, spatial analysis for mineral and hydrocarbon exploration. And he currently works as sub-director of the Research and Development Unit from the Oil and Gas Exploration and Production in Dominican Republic, and the Dominican Refinery of Petroleum in the Dominican Republic. So I think that we're talking with a person who has a very strong academic background and an excellent professional experience. So thank you very much once again,
Thank you.
Gregorio, for sharing with us this afternoon. And now we will invite you to a small,
Hay más preguntas de
there are some more.
Wow. Online,
I forgot about our.
online invitees.
Melvin Cárdenas
Okay.
pregunta, ¿cómo podemos asistir y preparar a la población antes y después de un posible desastre? How can we assist and prepare the population before and after a disaster, possible disaster?
Okay. As we are talking about information management and sharing, the way we can prepare our population is teaching at the school the importance of the information, because information is the base for decision making. People, when call the emergency service, they have to know that this is a really big responsibility, because that person is already busy. Your information can save life. That's the first key. And also, if they share information, that the information is easy to understand and easy to process. So I think in this way we can start. We have to do many things, but these small things can make a very big difference in terms of information management for disaster risk reductions and emergencies. Thank you, Mr. Cárdenas.
Es la última y Carlos pregunta que si se evalúa el impacto de la inteligencia artificial para la implementación de las soluciones.
Okay, that's a really good and fashionable question. Fashionable question. Artificial intelligence. Yeah. Artificial intelligence. Okay, sorry.
The impact of artificial intelligence was evaluated to find solutions or possible solutions.
That's really a fashionable questions. And we will also respond in a fashionable answer. The point is that we have to step one, step two, right? Approach. So we as a Caribbean, we are really ambitious. We want everything, but the government go in its own rhythm of development. So we are in the Caribbean. You see all the limitation that we have, but artificial intelligence is there, and it's a reality. But we have to prepare first in their own house to first, then we can move to a next level. But I think the governments are already using, especially private sector, for business-oriented approach, but not yet, I think, to the government. I mean, in the Caribbean. So in our case, we already have some programs teaching artificial intelligence at the university. This is also good. So in order to implement the artificial intelligence, we need first the people. We are going to do that. So we are doing this first step toward the implementation of artificial intelligence in the government, business, and others area.
Well, thank you for coming and let's now enjoy an appetizer and some drinks together. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your attention. Sí, por favor. Sí, please. We will be very happy on behalf of our ambassador to take one samples of the book and bring it to your embassy and transmit the message to your country. Thank you so much.
But ambassador.